Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 2 is already being dissected frame by frame, and fans are convinced the clues are hiding in plain sight. Here are every popular Stranger Things theory heading into the final stretch. Starting with Theory 1, who was in the Mineshaft and what is in the briefcase. This theory connects almost everything back to Stranger Things, The First Shadow, the stage play that quietly rewrote the lore. In the play, we learn that Dr. Brenner's father was part of a classified experiment meant to make a ship turn invisible. Instead, it vanished entirely, teleported to what we now know as Dimension X. When the ship reappeared, Brenner's father was the only survivor. The rest of the crew had been slaughtered by creatures that sound a lot like demogorgons. But the real detail people gloss over is what happened to him afterward. His blood type changed. That exact same thing happens to Henry after he goes missing for 12 hours as a child. When he comes back, he's different, physically altered, mentally colder, and that parallel feels deliberate. According to the theory, Brenner became obsessed with returning to Dimension X after learning what happened to his father. That obsession led to the Nevada experiment and to the man we later see bleeding in the mineshaft. That man wasn't random. He was a Russian spy. The briefcase he carried supposedly contained stolen interdimensional technology developed by Brenner, tech capable of opening a path to Dimension X. When Henry encounters him, he kills the man with a rock and then opens the briefcase. That's when everything changes. The theory suggests that opening the briefcase didn't just show Henry something. It sent him somewhere, straight to Dimension X. And that's where Henry first encountered the Mind Flayer. When Henry returns to our dimension, the signs match Brenner's father perfectly. Altered blood, shifted personality, a sudden obsession with merging worlds, which raises the real twist. What if Vecna was never fully in control? What if the Mind Flayer entered Henry instead? The particles, the whispers, the fixation on bringing worlds together. When Henry speaks about unity and destiny, the theory argues that it isn't Henry talking at all. It's the Mind Flayer using him as a vessel, a spy, a bridge between dimensions. That would flip the entire hierarchy. Not Vecna controlling the Mind Flayer, but the Mind Flayer controlling Vecna. And if that's true, the final question of Season 5 changes completely. Does Henry eventually turn on the Mind Flayer, or does the story end with Vecna being destroyed while the real threat survives? Theory 2, Vecna isn't ending the war, he's building the final monster. And if the first theory suggests Vecna might not even be the one in control, this next one goes even further straight into what his real endgame might be. There's a theory circulating that Vecna's plan in the Season 5 Volume 2 finale isn't destruction, it's construction. Back in Season 4, Vecna shows Nancy a vision, a massive creature with a gaping mouth, something we still haven't seen fully realized on screen. At the time, it felt like a tease for later. Now it feels like a warning that hasn't paid off yet. The potential proof shows up in Episode 7. When the story revisits the space where Vecna keeps the 12 children taken earlier in the season, the environment tells a very specific visual story. Vecna is positioned at the center, and directly above him is a massive, pulsing structure. Something organic, something alive. It beats like a heart, not metaphorically, literally. A slow, rhythmic pulse that mirrors a living organ. And when you look at the structure surrounding it, the shape becomes unsettlingly familiar. It looks like a rib cage. A protective layer wrapped around a heart. That's where the numbers start to matter. Vecna has 12 children connected to this space, and a human rib cage has 12 pairs of ribs. The theory argues this isn't coincidence. Those children aren't just victims, they're fuel. Each one powering a piece of a larger organism that's still forming. And while some fans believe this is all building toward a dragon-like creature, there's a darker possibility hiding underneath. What if this isn't a new monster at all? What if this is the physical body of the Mind Flayer? Up until now, the Mind Flayer has existed as smoke, particles, influence, never fully grounded in flesh. If Vecna's been harvesting psychic energy, fear, and life force from children across Hawkins, it could all be feeding into one goal, giving the Mind Flayer a permanent form in our world. That would explain everything. Vecna wouldn't be the final boss, he'd be the architect. And if the Mind Flayer is finally given a body, the finale wouldn't be about closing gates or killing one villain. It would be about stopping the true threat of the series from fully crossing over, which raises the real question going into the ending. If Vecna succeeds, are the kids actually fighting him, or racing to stop something far worse from being born? Theory 3, 11's sacrifice is how the story ends. And if Vecna's plan is about giving the Mind Flayer a body, this next theory flips the focus back to the one person who's always been at the center of everything. 11. After watching Volume 2, fans started connecting dots that point toward a much darker ending than anyone expected. It starts with something easy to overlook. In the finale, 8 tells 11 that scientists have been using Vecna's blood in experiments, trying to recreate his powers in other children. And it keeps failing. Every time. Except once. 11 is the only subject who ever developed abilities close to Vecna's. That alone makes her dangerous, not just to monsters, but to the people who want to control power. Then 8 shows 11 a vision, a hallucination of the future. In it, 11 is older, locked away. Scientists are experimenting on her again, draining her blood, trying to use her body to create more powered children. The message is clear. As long as 11 exists in this world, someone will always try to use her. That's where the theory lands. The idea is that the show doesn't end with 11 winning. It ends with 11 removing herself. According to the theory, 11 either dies or chooses something worse. She locks herself inside Dimension X, seals the gate permanently, and destroys the wormhole from the other side. No access to her body, no blood, no more experiments, no more children being turned into weapons. It's the ultimate full circle ending. The girl who was stolen as a child chooses to take control for the first time. Not out of fear, out of choice. And there's one more detail that makes this theory hit harder. Leaked set photos show Mike and Hopper sitting on a bench in a scene set roughly 2 years later. Hopper looks older. Mike looks devastated. Not reflective, not calm, just empty. Like someone who lost the one person holding everything together. If 11 is gone, not dead in battle, but lost beyond reach, that reaction makes sense. The gates are closed. The world is safe. But the cost is permanent, which would mean Stranger Things doesn't end with a celebration. It ends with a sacrifice. And if that's true, the final question isn't whether the group wins. It's whether saving the world was worth losing the one person who made it possible. Theory 4: Kali isn't trying to stop Vecna. She's covering for him. And if 11's sacrifice is one possible ending, this next theory asks a much darker question. What if the real betrayal comes from inside the group? This theory centers on Kali. Kali's power has always been different. She doesn't move things. She doesn't tear open dimensions. She creates illusions. Convincing, emotional, reality-bending illusions. We've already seen how powerful they are, especially when the military is involved. Even trained soldiers couldn't tell what was real and what wasn't until it was too late. That power alone makes her dangerous, but it's her mindset that raises red flags. Throughout her scenes, Kali is obsessed with one idea, that once Vecna is gone, they should be gone too. Not disappear, not hide, die. She repeatedly pushes the idea that powered people don't belong in the world and that the only way to end everything is total erasure. Vecna, 11, herself, all of them. And every time Vecna is mentioned, she doesn't sound afraid. She sounds irritated. That's where the theory starts to click. What if Kali isn't planning to defeat Vecna at all? What if she's planning to fake his death? With illusion powers like hers, it wouldn't take a real victory, just something convincing enough to make 11 and the others believe it's over. If Kali creates an illusion of Vecna being destroyed, and then convinces the remaining powered characters to sacrifice themselves afterward, this time with no opposition, no gate closers, no psychic counterweight, nothing standing in his way. That's what makes this theory unsettling. Kali's plan doesn't require brute force, it requires belief. If she can control what people see, she can control what they think is finished. And suddenly, her obsession with ending it all doesn't sound heroic, it sounds convenient. The theory doesn't claim Kali is openly evil. It suggests she's aligned with Vecna's outcome, even if she frames it as mercy or necessity, which would make her the most dangerous kind of threat. Not a monster, not a general, but someone standing next to you, convincing you it's over when it's really just beginning. That's the theory. And if it's even partially true, the finale wouldn't just be about stopping Vecna. It would be about realizing who you should never trust to tell you the fight is finished. Theory 5. The Thessalhydra is already here, just not how we expected. And if Vecna is building something instead of ending things, this theory suggests we may have already seen what it's becoming. The idea starts with a blink, and you miss it moment. In episode 5, when Nancy and Jonathan walk through the abandoned Hawkins lab in the Upside Down, the camera frames Jonathan on the right third of the screen. The rest of the frame is filled with twisting vines. And when you look at the silhouette those vines create, the shape is unmistakable. It looks like a Thessalhydra, not a full monster reveal, a suggestion. And that matters, because Stranger Things loves visual foreshadowing. The Duffer Brothers rarely explain things outright. They show you pieces early and let the meaning click later. That silhouette isn't random. From there, the theory ties into what we've already learned about Vecna's. We now know the glowing mass we saw earlier wasn't the heart. The real heart is the massive, beating structure above Vecna's cavern in the abyss. In Dungeons & Dragons lore, a monster's heart, or core, is what controls it. Destroy the heart, destroy the creature. So, what if that heart doesn't belong to Vecna alone? Here's where the theory gets wild. Vecna has 12 children connected to him, mentally and physically. And the Thessalhydra is traditionally depicted with 3 heads. The theory proposes that the children aren't just batteries for power, they're components. 6 children per head, 2 heads formed by collective psychic control. Vecna himself at the center. 3 heads, 12 minds, 1 creature. Not a dragon in the literal sense, but a living structure made of vines, energy, and consciousness, controlled the same way Will once controlled the tunnels. Similar to how the Rat King forms, individual beings merging into one massive entity. The Thessalhydra wouldn't be a separate monster, it would be Vecna's final form. That also explains why Vecna keeps saying he needs more power. He can't become this alone. He needs minds. He needs structure. He needs something to assemble the body. And suddenly, the silhouette in the lab doesn't feel like an Easter egg anymore. It feels like a blueprint. The Upside Down isn't building a monster from scratch. It's assembling one. And if that's true, then hope isn't lost, because like every D&D monster, this one has a weakness, a heart. And the entire finale may come down to whether the kids can reach it before the creature is complete. Theory 6. The bridge confirms Vecna's time travel endgame. And if the Thessalhydra theory explains what Vecna is building, this one explains why he needs the 12 children in the first place. It starts with the episode title, The Bridge. That name isn't symbolic, it's literal. Time has been woven into Stranger Things from the beginning, but Volume 2 makes it impossible to ignore. Max reliving November 6th. Vecna's obsession with clocks. Constant references to Back to the Future. A wrinkle in time, and time as something that can bend, loop, or break. Even the Upside Down itself gives it away. The wall structure in Vecna's domain isn't random. It forms a perfect circle, a clock face, and clocks only matter if time itself is the weapon. This is where the Broadway play The First Shadow becomes essential. The play reveals that the children at Hawkins' lab didn't get their powers directly from the Upside Down. They got them through blood transfusions from Henry, who got his powers straight from the Mind Flayer in Dimension X. That difference matters. Powers taken from the source are instant and strong. Powers passed through blood are weaker and require training. That explains everything. Why 11 had to learn, why Henry didn't, and why Will connected so deeply, so fast. Now look at the 12 kids Vecna captures. The theory argues these children won't have diluted abilities. They'll have Henry-level power, because they're being altered directly through Vecna himself. 12 minds, all strong enough to manipulate reality at the same level. And Vecna needs exactly 12 of them for a reason. A clock has 12 positions. Those positions form the structure of a tesseract, a higher dimensional object used to create a wormhole through space and time. An Einstein-Rosen bridge. The same concept Mr. Clark once taught in class. The same shape Will unknowingly draws in the barn where the children are being incubated. The bridge isn't a metaphor. It's a mechanism. Once the 12 positions are activated, Vecna creates a stable wormhole, not just between worlds, but across time. A pathway for the Mind Flayer to move from Dimension X into the Upside Down, and then fully into the real world. That's why Vecna keeps saying it's already over. Because once the bridge is built, the invasion doesn't need force. It becomes inevitable, and that's where the theory turns devastating. If the bridge opens, the only way to stop it wouldn't be fighting forward. It would be going back, far enough to stop Henry from ever entering the cave. Far enough that Hawkins never becomes what it is. Far enough that 11 never gets her powers, or never exists at all. Which means the final choice of Stranger Things might not be winning the war. It might be deciding whether the world they saved should exist in the first place.